Hey, welcome to the podcast. On today's episode, we have Dustin Bothwell. Dustin is a songwriter based out of Nashville. Check it out.
Subscribe to our channel. Do it.
Cool. Like, we were just talking when Chris was on here, we were actually talking about you, because I was saying one of the things that's been really fucking cool, because I've only been like, because we've known each other a fucking while, but I've only really been seeing you perform the last little bit. And I was saying, like, one of the things that I think is really fucking cool about, and we were just talking about this generally, but I was using you as an example. I'm like, every time I watch Dustin play, he gets better at performing, and I can see him figuring out like what's working, what's not, like doing the same process I do of like, okay, what worked there and what didn't work there, and trying to hone that. Because so many people you watch who are great fucking performers and great songwriters and musicians and all that, it can feel like kind of a crapshoot every time, where you just don't know, like, okay, are they trying to improve at their craft or not? And like, that's what I love, is watching someone who you can see is doing that. Is like, every time you go up there, it's like, oh no, like, I'm trying to get better at whatever the hell this is I'm doing. Right. It's hard, man.
I mean, the way that I've started to kind of mark that is that it's not thoughts that I have while I'm performing. It's noticing that I'm paying more attention to different aspects of other people's performances. Okay, just naturally. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, when I'm watching my friends play, or when I'm watching somebody I've never seen play, I'm like, how do they direct their band? How do they call a solo? How are they holding things together? Yeah. What is the relationship between the people on stage? That's where my focus has sort of shifted, when there's a hole in that, and then when there's a hole in, like, you know, my acoustic guitar playing, or whatever it is, like, I just naturally gravitate toward watching for that while I'm enjoying a performance of anybody. You know?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. When you have an idea of like how the sausage is made, it's fun to watch people do that.
I always want to know how the sausage is made.
Yeah, same. And I think I genuinely think that the people who make the best stuff tend to have that disposition, because it makes you need to get better at what you're doing, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
Fuck yeah. Wait, so we were just saying, where did you come here from? You were on the road, right? You were sort of a little bit nomadic before getting out here.
Yeah, before I moved to Nashville. Nashville's the first place I moved to. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida originally, and I traveled a lot when I was younger, and I would say I moved here from Jacksonville, Florida. It just took me about 4 years to do it.
Gotcha.
Pretty much. But I moved here from Southern Oregon, really.
Okay.
When I made the decision to come to Nashville, I'd been bumming around on a motorcycle for a little bit, and had been hitchhiking before that, and ended up in Southern Oregon on a farm. And it was too cold for me. I have reptile blood. I don't know. I missed the sunshine. People were nice to me here. So I remembered when I'd come through a couple of times, and I was like, I'm going to move to Nashville. I didn't necessarily do it for music, but, you know, that was inevitable because of the friends I made and the people that I ended up spending all my time around.
Yeah, we kind of
being one of them.
We kind of had the opposite thing. Like, Brian and I, we came here for the music, and it was really like, okay, it's either here, New York, or LA, and we'd both spent enough time in both those other places to know, let's try Nashville.
Right.
Yeah.
And we got out here, and I do think the biggest, because we came out here for like a week just to check it out. And I think the reason we kind of got hooked was, one, it wasn't New York or LA, but also the people were just super nice. And we thought, oh, I like this spot. And
yeah,
I was surprised how quickly we found our people that we're still friends with to this day. Like most of the people, you know, like, there's some people who crept in over time, like, you know, Chris obviously moved here a little bit afterwards, and like, but that core group of people, I feel like, really came together quickly. A lot of it's just got here around the same time.
I also feel like it was a lot, maybe it's not, but I feel like it was smaller back then, the kind of
maybe
circle we were in.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just,
I think more of us have just gotten here too. Yeah.
Well, more people have gotten here, and also it was more people are spreading out so much more and bringing more people in. I mean, and people's lives are getting bigger, you know. We also had, you know, we had COVID, so everybody was
exactly,
you know,
true.
It definitely got concentrated and dialed in for a couple of years there, where everybody got to spend a lot more time together, and then careers were, you know, everybody could focus on their careers.
And it's funny because I feel like a lot of people aren't a fan of the fact that Nashville is growing in that way, and that, and don't get me wrong, there
There's
are
good
definitely
and bad that comes
there's
with it.
definitely good and bad that comes along with anything like that. But I mean, I think the more cool people you have anywhere wanting to do cool things, the better.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. I if I didn't have to, you know, sit in traffic for 45 minutes to get to my buddy's house that I used to be able to drive to in 10 minutes, then I would have no complaints. Actually, I don't, you know.
Yes, I'm right there with you on that.
My
Prices have gone way up too. That's not.
You know what? I take
thing.
it back. Everyone should just fucking leave.
No,
Yeah.
there is a lot of good that comes with that. Though.
Yeah, there
Like,
definitely is.
It's both. It's
more
just
opportunity.
it's just not handled, you know, by the city the way that it should be. That's
Oh,
all, you know.
definitely not.
That's where it's not the people. It's the
It's also just
administration.
like, especially after when around 2020, probably early 2021. I can't remember the numbers. Oh God, I wish I could remember how many people were moving here every week. It was fucking insane.
It was a crazy number.
God, I wish I could remember the number.
And not just
it was
the,
insane.
Not just the people moving here, but it seems like tourism has really exploded.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
yeah,
I mean,
way more than
even
when
just
we first
Broadway.
moved
I mean,
here.
I feel like because you got here 7 years ago, right? So you got here a little bit before we
Yeah,
did.
Chris and I actually moved here about the same time. He'd been here a couple months before me.
Okay.
But back to how quickly everything kind of found, you know, everybody found each other and found where they wanted to be and everything. And I think it does have a kind of a natural sorting sort of phenomenon too, because I mean, I had gotten off the road and I'd needed a place to, you know, I hadn't lived anywhere really for so long, and I got hired at Roberts, Western World downtown on.
Shout out to Roberts.
You know, shout out to Roberts. Like, I got hired there 2 days after I moved here, and I was sleeping in the park. You know, I was like, I'm gonna move somewhere, and I'm gonna get my shit together. And you know, I met everybody that I needed to know at that point through that, and it was just all, you know, overnight I had lifelong friends. I didn't, you know, whether I knew that at the time, like.
It is weird how that happens. I mean, Brian and I have talked about this before, but all of my closest friends in life, not one of them did I ever meet and think, oh, I want to be best friends with you. It's just sort of, life just sort of happens, and it just kind of unfolds in that way, which I think is really, really beautiful, actually. But yeah, I feel like the same thing happened here. A lot of us just, for whatever reason, just gravitated towards each other, and that group of people kind of codified and became its own thing. But
we also are always helping each other make things and help each other have fun, you know.
Yeah, like I was saying when we were hanging outside, like, that's honestly the thing that it sounds weird to say it, but that's the thing I think I'm most excited for with this, is it's just a platform to help friends and other just people that make cool music that I like, get that out there to people. Like, I think that's cool. The more stuff you have like that in the world, the better. Sure. And I just think that that's a great, for me, it's like, it just makes me happy because there's so, like, all of our fucking friends out here are so fucking talented.
Also doing it independently, doing it, you know, we're in a kitchen. This is great.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not like
this is a professional studio.
This is a huge studio. The security was crazy. It's not like I wouldn't be singing some songs if I came over to hang out anyway.
Exactly. And like, you know, and it's just,
we can't help it.
Yeah. And it's fun because it's just more of an excuse. It's more of an excuse. It's one more excuse to get people together, because I find, especially as time goes on and people's lives get more and more complicated, you have fewer reasons to just get together and hang. Like, anytime I can get people together, like, hey, we're gonna have a barbecue out back or whatever, like, I do it way less than I want to, and every time I do, I think, God damn it, I should just invite everyone over every week.
Well, it's one of those things. Everybody gets together to do a project. Okay, we're gonna do a recording. We're gonna do a recording session. We've got a day in the studio. Or we're doing something at the house, or we're, you know, let's get together and do a rehearsal, or we're playing a show. I mean, I hang out with so many of my friends constantly, but we haven't hung out in months.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
But it's under the guise of work. We hang out constantly, and we're attached to the hip in different combinations. You know.
Yeah.
We call it work. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. No, but that's
work pays.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah, work that doesn't pay me. Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Like, we're doing, like, we used to do, when we lived in Boston, we used to do poker nights a lot, and we would do that kind of weekly. And then we've talked about it for literally years about starting it back up, and we did it a little bit, And at this point, I'm like, okay, we just need to pick a night and start doing poker nights again, because frankly, I don't miss poker, but I miss poker nights. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, totally.
I miss just being able to text everyone and be like, hey, like, Dustin, like, you want to just like come like pretend to play poker for like a couple hours, you know?
Do a couple serious ones and then just okay, this was a facade the whole time.
It just gets harder when everyone gets older. You know, you start having more shit to do, and everyone gets busier.
That's why I keep the kids just chained up at the house at home. You know, like they're not going anywhere.
Indoor, outdoor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, and the more success you have with anything you do, the more responsibility comes with it too. I mean, that's music also.
Yeah, it's true. You okay with it, Brian?
That was a good one.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
like because I was thinking about this. So you've been writing for a while, right? Because you've only really been doing the singer songwriter thing for a couple of years, but you've been writing for a little while.
I've been writing songs for you know, I mean, with varying amounts of, you know, tenacity for most of my life. But I mean, I grew up in the punk scene in Jacksonville and was in a couple of different bands. One for a long time that I wrote everything, but we didn't know what we were doing. You know, we were riding on the, you know, the anger and the youth. You know,
well, that's why everyone likes punk music when they're 13, because it's fucking awesome.
And you can, and there's a shelf life. You know, there's
a
expiration date on that.
Once you lose some of that angst.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's just, you can only, it's kind of like you can only ride on just the energy for so long. You lose your charm as a person, and then you have to learn how to play music.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. Yeah, like I'm always curious how people get to different types of music. I mean, country music isn't necessarily I wouldn't call you a country musician necessarily.
Operating in a country world.
Yeah, exactly.
I grew up on country music.
And that's one of the things I think is really fucking great about what you're doing too. I mean, there's a lot of country framing happening, but your songwriting, to me, because to me that's really the only thing I'm qualified to talk about, because I love songwriting. It's my favorite thing.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah, but like your songwriting is so it's so distinct, and to me it's like a lot of people out here, not to throw shade at anyone, are trying to work within a very specific proscenium to be like, okay, I want to be a country songwriter, which is awesome, and that is a skill set in and of itself. What I think is cool about your stuff is they're great songs, and then they happen to be kind of framed by this country ensemble, and the arrangements are in that, which to me is like, yeah, exactly, for now, which to me I think is just the coolest thing in the world, because it's like, okay, well, I want to know what he does next, you know what I mean? Whereas if someone is just working towards that singular vision of, I want to be doing this country thing,
I mean, you can go like decade to decade, and you can rehash as much as you want, but eventually it'll kind of fold back on itself.
Exactly.
I feel like, I don't know. I love every era of country music. I was raised on 90s country music. My mom had a 6-foot tall cardboard cutout of Alan Jackson at the foot of her bed my whole life.
That'd be weird if I said same too.
Damn. I mean, it'd been cooler if she did though.
Yeah. So you did the record probably a year and a half ago now, right?
Started it a year and a half ago, finished it like a year ago.
Gotcha.
Know, something like that. Maybe a little bit longer now. I don't know.
Was the plan to kind of have a slow burn where you could give it the time that you wanted, or did that just kind of naturally end up happening?
Well, there was no plan. It was my first record, and I made it with my friends. We did a home recording. It's all independent, and so, you know, the timeline of everything was just kind of, when balanced with my life working and figuring that out, trying to balance those things. It's just, it got out when it got out. I put it out in August, and I can't really say what could have gone any other way.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, yeah, I guess
it takes time. Takes time to figure. First record, it takes time to figure out how to do all of those things, just logistically. I mean, social media is such a nauseating thing to navigate sometimes, with like people telling you what you should and shouldn't do with stuff. I mean, of course, my gut instinct was just put the thing out, And
I have that same gut instinct with things a lot of times, which whether or not that serves me for the best, it's usually gut instinct.
I mean, what is the best for what? You know,
that's very true.
You know, nobody that's like fully wanting to spend all their time making art and making it as good as it can be. Social media takes away from that 100%. I mean, if that's my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like for me, I'm constantly trying to. It's like I have to have two brains at the same time. One being for lack of a less nauseating term, the artist, the person who like wants to just make this stuff and is just infatuated with making this stuff and just wants to keep doing that over and over and over again. And then there's the other part that has to actually find a way of getting that in front of people, and the sort of the organizational element of it, the sort of managerial element of it, which I think is also, it's a fun skill to learn, but it's not necessarily the reason why I want to do this. So it's always hard in my head to be able to juggle those two things simultaneously.
I mean, to kind of tie what, you know, the origin story to this is, if, you know, as a young person making art of any kind, but music specifically, if you thought that you would eventually have to also run admin for your own stuff, like, and all of that, and like have this weird, you know, email oriented job too, like I don't know, they do affect one another very much, and you have to separate them for sure. I think, and also I'm not, you know, how qualified am I to talk about this? I'm just learning what a spreadsheet is, you know what I mean? I'm trying to figure out how I don't even have a computer. You know, I do.
But I think that's what I think is fun, talking to friends and just various people around here, is to see how people develop those skills, because I don't think anyone gets into art with the intention of doing that, or with the intention of wanting to do that. And it's fun to see how people deal with that, you know, and there are people who are wildly successful who maybe don't have that skill set developed the way that it should be, and there's other people who are just starting out who really know how they want to approach that, and it's just kind of cool to pick people's brains and see how that works, because
absolutely,
for me, I know I really have to compartmentalize those two things of, okay, is this your artist brain making cool stuff moment, or is this, you know, you've got to send these emails and get they occupy
two different spaces in time. I will say that the more I learn about organizing my ideas and like files on my computer or things like that, or on my phone, the more I feel like I need to clean my kitchen, you know, like so that is good.
That's a very good way to put it.
I mean, it is like learned behaviors that you will apply to.
Oh, there we go.
That you will apply to other things in your life. You know what I mean? It's like you know, there is a reason to make your bed in the morning, and I mean, being an artist doesn't. It actually requires more of that than having an office job, you know?
Yeah, that's one thing that I mean, for me at least, I've had to learn over the course of my life is exactly that sentiment. I think a lot of people, when they hear, I want to be a musician, they think I want to fuck off and smoke weed and, you know, not have a day job. And
a lot of people do that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. A lot of people do that.
A lot of people.
No, that's how you become a songwriter, not a musician. Then you take the next step, and then you make your bed.
There you go. There you go. But absolutely, but doing something like that, it's a lot of self-control, and it's a lot of sort of self-governance and figuring out how you're going to get your shit together to make that work, because it's so goddamn hard. I mean, it's so hard to I mean, not even just have a successful career doing that, because that looks different for all kinds of people, but just it's so hard to creatively be productive in that way,
sustain your ability to keep making the things you want to make.
Yeah. Like, so when you're songwriting, are you regimented with it, or is it just sort of is it more haphazard the way you actually start writing?
I just think about, I have a lot of tabs open in my brain, you know. It's always happening in the back burner. I always tell myself I'm going to get regimented about it, because I want to, like, you know, there's little ideas swimming in the back of my head and all that stuff. I need to organize them. I need to put them together. I never really do. But you know, when something is overwhelmingly necessary, you know, it's like it's knocking on the back of my eyes, like, okay, then I'm gonna gonna shirk one responsibility today and give it attention. You know, I mean, I've been outfitting my music room, and I've got an upright piano, and the way that I write is like in the back of my head all day long when I'm doing everything else I need to do. I mean, I do foundation repair for a living right now. I've gone back and forth from trade work and bar and service and kitchens and all that stuff. So I cook shit in the back of my head, and then when I get home at like 3 a.m, sometimes I'm like, okay, I'll play my guitar for 45 seconds and make sure that the chords I thought of match the lyrics, and then go to sleep and hope that was written down somewhere. And then like eventually there's a song. And if it doesn't make it through that process, then I say goodbye to it, I guess.
I think there is something to that filtration process of, if it's not good enough to remember, it's not good enough to remember. And
hey, you just quoted Ronnie Van Zant, buddy.
There you go. But yeah, I'm always, because for me, I know my process has changed and continues to change. Like, I used to be really, really regimented with how I would go about writing. To me, it's like I think there's a couple different, and my views on this have changed over time. But to me, the way I used to look at it, I would have, usually it was about 15 minutes a day where I would just sit down at my computer and I would just pour shit out, and with the intent of not keeping anything. The intent was just whatever ideas are coming through, put them down.
Get your stream of consciousness on the page.
Exactly. And the idea for me being like, you're keeping the pipes clean. So when those ideas do show up, you've gone through the mechanics of actually taking that from your brain and putting it into your fingers or whatever, putting it on the page. And so I did that for years, and that's one approach that works and definitely yields something. And then there's times where, like at this point in my life, I just kind of write when I feel like writing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that there's not, one isn't better than the other. They just, your views on things change, and I know they'll continue to change. Maybe I'll go back to the way I was doing it, but it just depends on where you're at in life, I think.
I know that I'll try lots of different approaches, and I have in the past. But you say that you used to say I'm keeping the pipes clean. I always say I'm keeping the knife sharp. Like,
that's probably a better analogy. Yeah.
Well, I think that's two different things. Like, keeping the knife sharp is when you're working the raw stuff into something. And keeping the pipes clean is getting your brain unclogged. I mean, it's
totally.
It's like you got to clean the pipes, and then you got to sharpen.
It's
the
almost
knife.
like the technical process versus like the creative process.
Yeah,
sure.
That's a good way to think about it. Do you write first line first usually, or do you come up with something and then kind of fill in from there, or is it completely varied?
Everything is subject to move, I guess. But, I don't think I spend much time on anything that I don't think is, if it's first line first, then it's probably the overall motif of the song. So I would say, like, the idea of the song comes first, what it's about. Okay. I mean, right now, I can only speak to right now, because
absolutely.
I used to write. I mean, half the songs on the one record that I have is 10 songs. Half of those songs I wrote when I was traveling, and they were verse, just like no structure really. And I worked those into something and figured out what those songs were about. And so that's how I used to do it, just because the people I looked up to as songwriters, they could write a song with 9 verses, and that's fine, and it's still fine. But nowadays, I mean, recently, like the new batch of songs that I have right now, I'm kind of kicking around and playing, like, they're mostly starting with chorus or like main themes or whatever, and I'm building outward from there. I mean, that's what I'm doing right now.
It's interesting. I so there's a song on that record, "To Spite the Blues," that we were talking about earlier on your record, and it's funny when I first heard you play that, the first line of that song, "It's a real nice alley when the rain don't fall." When I heard that line, I thought, that's a first line of a song. Like, one, it's just a great fucking line, but I thought, in my head, I could imagine, and I could be completely off from this. But as a listener, as a songwriter, I thought, oh my God, like, that's, as soon as I hear that, it's, I can imagine coming up with that in my head, and then the rest of the song follows. Because it's such a great opening line. And I thought, that, like, I could feel, it sounds silly because it's very few and far between that you can do this, but to me, as someone who does that same thing, I could feel the rest of the song coming after it. You'd like that excitement of, that's a great first line.
Which is funny because it's disjointed. I mean, like it jumps around a lot, but that first line, it's funny you bring that one up, I wrote that the first time I was ever in Nashville years before I moved here, sleeping in an alley in East Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. It started raining on me, and I was like, "That's a real nice alley if the rain wasn't fucking coming down." You know? Yeah. And I wrote that. You know where I wrote that? I wrote that at Edgefield.
Really?
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. And then I wrote the first verse at Edgefield, and then the rest of them are from different parts of the country, so it's an amalgamation of different places. But yeah, and that song never sounded like that, you know. It only sounded that way when, you know, my friends got their hands on it too, and we raised it like a baby, like you do. But like, no, I finger picked that song under bridges and whatnot. It's like that's the oldest song on the record. That's the one I pulled from first.
There are some great ones. The ones that you've been doing recently, like you just played "Quit Making Whiskey."
No, that's not on the record though.
Yeah, it's not on the record, and I asked you to play that even though I knew it was on the record because I genuinely think that song is fantastic.
Well, thank you.
That is, I truly think that is just a phenomenal country song. But that sounds a little counter to what I was saying earlier. It's a phenomenal country song because I think I'm trying to think the best way to articulate this. I think that it showcases your songwriting really, really well, but it's also it works within that framework of a country song.
It was written through that lens.
Yeah,
I mean, it's definitely like I every time I play that song live, I say, you know, here's the obligatory whiskey
but to
song.
Me it sounds like your version of a country song, if that makes sense.
Oh,
like
it's
in a very, very distinct voice, and that I just think I love that because
I love playing that song.
Yeah,
the band loves playing that song.
Yeah, it's a fantastic song. Like I really, really love that song, and a lot of people I feel like who are writing more exclusively in a particular genre, whether it's country or anything else, the voice of that individual, it's harder to find sometimes because you're trying to kind of you're pigeonholing yourself into your writing, you know.
Sure.
And that just, to me, I just think that's a fantastic song.
Well, I appreciate you saying so, but yeah, that struggle to find the inner monologue come through when you're doing character songs, or you're doing like which I don't consider that a character song. I just consider it a song about whiskey. Yeah. It's just I thought to my head while I was riding down the street, like, quit making whiskey, quit making you cry. That sounds good. Like it's a song.
Yeah.
But in terms of like creating characters and things, I mean, I don't do a lot of character writing stuff, but I want to. I don't know. I think about losing yourself in that. I used to cling too hard to like this, songs have to be from your perspective, but they don't. They have to be from a perspective that you understand. Though. Yeah, and that's a huge distinction that I make now. Is like when I first moved to Nashville, I remember the first time I ever passed through Nashville and I walked up and down Broadway. I mean, my mom and my grandma, man, they raised me on Chris Christopherson, and I saw Chris, R.I.P. by the way. I saw Chris twice before he died. I was like 11, 12 years old, and that was like something changed in me, thinking about writing, and I was I remember the first time I walked down Broadway and was like, oh man, okay. A little disappointing, but like, I figured out how to appreciate once I moved here and all that stuff. But the where I lost myself already.
Oh no, the character side of things.
The character side of things. It's like, when I moved here, then I see people performing songs. Like I'd been on the road and I'd been doing the tramp thing, and like, so seeing somebody gig and be like, talk about Mama Tried and talking about I'm a Lonesome Fugitive and all that stuff. It's like, I was, and I don't know how to do that, man. That's crazy. Why do you get to sing that song? I had a lot of weird feelings to work through with stuff like that, with like the presentation of these characters. and the outlaw country thing and all of that. And then I realized later that a good song is a good song. And if the person performing that song, it depends on the context, you know. I mean, doing a gig is doing a gig. But if you're an artist and you are doing a character song, then I don't know. I can tell whether tell whether you understand that character or not. You know, like me, every time.
So at this point in my life, the last 5 years now, I exclusively write in character. But to me, it's a creative decision, because I feel like I got to this point in life, and I always talk about this, and I don't know how other musicians feel about this, but I got to a point in life where I just felt kind of gross getting up and going on stage. Like, I remember a lot of gigs where Brian and I would play, and I remember looking in the audience and thinking, why do you care what I have to say about anything? and again, like, that's not to say that I'm not in any way to put that thing down, but for me personally, as an individual, I felt like I don't even fucking care what I have to say about this. Like, why should you care? And I started realizing what I really wanted in songwriting was I wanted the same creative freedom that a novelist would have, or a short story writer, or someone writing a script for a film, where that to me felt more interesting, because, and this is a hard thing to really express, but to me it's a wholly selfish endeavor. What I do, I feel like playing music, really, you learn a lot about yourself. And for me, I learned that this is an act of sympathy, is really what it is. It's putting yourself in someone else's shoes and having to look at the world through their eyes. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. I think oftentimes, like, when people are writing character, there's this sort of there's a little wink and a nudge to the audience, like, hey, do you get it? Whereas to me, that's not interesting. Like, I'll use an example. One of my songs, Mr. Relatable, that is about this movie actor whose things were going well, they're not going so well anymore, and he's conveying to the audience all of these problems that he's having in his life that are, to most audience members, absurd. They close his favorite 5-star steakhouse, his Bugatti's in the shop because someone hit it, and it's him essentially bitching to the audience about these things that most people would just kill to have those be their problems.
Yeah, no frame of reference.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's two ways you can do that song. One is the sort of cynical way, which is to present the character as the butt of the joke, and to have that wink and the nod and the sort of nudge to the audience of, like, oh, do you get it? Fuck this guy, you know. To me, that's not interesting. Like, to me, there's just something kind of gross about that. Sure. What's more interesting is having to look at it through his eyes, and having him know that you as the audience think that. Having him know that, yeah, I know that you think this is fucking ridiculous, but hey, these are my problems.
And playing the character anyway.
Exactly. And to me, I think, like, that's the most concise way I can express what I do. But that is what I think is so interesting about working within that world, which most people, when they do that, it's usually a little more flippant, and it's usually not as it feels a little cheaper most of the time when you do the former, and you're not actually looking at the world through those characters' eyes.
Well, I've got to say, I mean, I was speaking in the context of country music and outlaw country music, and the thing is,
it can feel very performative, like a costume almost.
Well, it's. I don't think that thought process of which angle am I taking is happening. It's just like this is phoned in. This is the way that this is supposed to be presented.
I get what you mean. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's almost like Casey, your songs are incredibly creative, and they are, every single one of them sits in in the mind of somebody
that's very kind of you.
That lives somewhere different, and it shoots from a different hip every single time, and you don't know where you're going to go. It's
probably usually not for the best.
I mean, hey, that's relative.
Yeah, that is true. I think that I'm always fascinated by how people put these things together, because there's such a there's such a wide variety of approaches you can take when you're songwriting. Whether it's, okay, do you write lyric first? Do you write melody first? Are you starting with chord changes? Like there's so many different approaches, and I think at the end of the day, it all just comes down to you need some kind of catalyst. You need some kind of spark to catch your mind and let you get something out.
Absolutely.
Like for me, I find that I just sit with a character. Like there's not a line, there's not a melody, but someone will show up. Like in my head, there is a character that I'm sitting with you for a couple weeks. I have no idea what you're gonna say, and usually, the thing that whatever that first movement is to get you a first line, whatever, it's usually something I'm not expecting. And to me, that's what's interesting about it is, but everyone has their different way in there. Like, when you write, do you write usually lyric first, or do you go melody first?
Well, I think that it has a lot to do with the way that, the way you came into music. I mean, I wasn't a musician, I played shitty electric guitar. So for me, it's lyric first. You create characters. My first record,
the same way. Yeah.
My first record is a mixture of songs from different times in my life that I worked up to kind of be cohesive. I was worried about that, if whether they would play together. I chose my favorite ones that I wanted to put on that record, and we worked together. Now my writing style's changed completely. So, I start with lyric, every time, but I'm starting to write some of my first sort of outside of myself songs. I've got one of those on the record, Robin. Is one of those songs where I wrote from somebody else's perspective. But yeah, it changes. But it's almost never music first. If it is, it's not a chord progression. It's a musical kind of musical idea, motif, or vibe, or even just like how I know I want it to feel.
Interesting.
If I know this is going to be like a piano song with blue notes in it, then like that will inform the lyrical content. But I might have an idea. I want a song that sounds like kind of like this mixed with this thing. Like, let me see what I can write to make that happen.
It's funny. I'm really surprised that that record is written over such a time span, because it is a very cohesive sounding record.
It blows my mind to hear you say that, because that was one of my biggest. It really is.
Like we were talking about this earlier today. I was thinking like, it's a really good collection of songs, but it's also like it feels as a whole. It feels as a whole, which is that really surprises me to hear you say that.
Which I find that to be super important. An album feeling like an album.
Same.
I feel like a lot of people kind of ignore that, and it's just a collection of a bunch of songs they throw together. Mm-hmm. Whereas like I'm an album guy. I like to listen to albums front to back, and I want it to feel like they're all tied together in some way.
I'll say that the thing that I agonized most over was the sequence, and that's like,
you did a fine job.
I
listened to it this morning, and it was a very good front to back album.
I appreciate you saying that. That was the thing that kept me awake. There are a lot of balled up pieces of paper with those songs written in every order.
The same exactly. But to me, that's part of the fun of doing this too. Is it's little things like that, and I think also you as a consumer, are in the way that you approach listening to music really dictates a lot on the creative side of things, because a lot of people just don't care and like don't have an interest in that, and to me that's how I listen to music. So I spend a lot of fucking time figuring, okay, this goes here, this goes, and I know most people don't care. Like I know most people, but I also know that some people like Brian or you or do care.
We have to care.
I am
we must care. I mean, I remember there's I guess it's a gradual thing, but realizing, that when I was younger and like my friend who was a drummer didn't understand what I heard in this record start to finish that was outside of the genre he was comfortable with, or whatever it was, and like, oh, I've lost my sense of connection with my friend, or whatever it is, being frustrated with that and not being able to share in this love for the sequencing of this album, or like how it tells a story that's disjointed but still has motifs and through lines. And then realizing that like if everybody listened to music like I do when we were children, then like we wouldn't have drummers, and we wouldn't have bass players, and we wouldn't have lead players, and we wouldn't have, like, everybody has to interpret
Yeah.
You know, it's the way you hear music is the way you play music. So,
yeah, and yeah, I'm curious. When you were younger, who were some of the, because you grew up with a lot of country music. Were those the people that guided you? Like, who were some of your favorites when you were a kid?
Oh, I mean, I grew up with my mom having, every Alan Jackson CD. I keep going back to Alan. I mean, that's a big deal. But no, I mean, my grandfather was a shrimp boat captain. He had Doug Kershaw tapes, and he had Patsy Cline tapes, and that's what he listened to in the garage when he did his woodworking, when he couldn't be on the boat anymore. He died when I was young. And my mom, mom and my grandmother, they took me to see Chris Christopherson when I was a kid, and it's just like, that was just how I grew up and what I had access to. Of course, when I'm a child, I'm just hearing that and then want to rebel and go into, you got to figure out if that's where you want to be. And
I'm curious. So did you, what was the first thing that you found, the first kind of music that you found that you felt like was yours? Because for me, it was punk music.
Yeah, punk music for sure.
Yeah, okay, nice.
It was, I mean, it was what was happening in my with I don't know, like I said, Jacksonville, started a band when I was 14. We were a band for 20 years. Not 20 years, until I was 20. How many years is that? Sorry, it's a long day. But 6 years. 6 years as a child, playing aggressive music and not knowing anything about music, just playing,
but doing it for the
just
right
slamming
reason.
on a guitar and being pissed off about like whatever there is to be pissed off about.
But I would rather listen to that kid than the kid who...
The kid means it.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing. That kid means it.
Yeah. And that kind of music, I mean, that's where
the authenticity comes through.
Exactly.
Yeah. And like there's so many different styles of music where I feel like that's so important. And I mean, for me, that was my window into music. And then later on, like in high school age, it became, later in high school, it was like the math rock thing that was happening out in California, and playing a lot of those bands and that kind of stuff. But yeah, you just need to find your way in somehow. And then you can go back once you feel like, okay, I've codified this, I have this thing that's mine. Then you can go back and revisit those things and just be completely open to them. But I feel like you need to find your rebellious thing first. That's yours.
You have to leave to come home.
Exactly.
That's the thing. And I sometimes I've found myself listening to things I recorded with my, some of my people who are still some of my best friends, those kids, those people, and then being able to actually explain what's happening musically there, and that's a mark of progress, I guess, but that whole time I've always had a pretty eclectic music. I like all kinds of shit. I don't just like, okay, I was raised on country music, punk rock bands, back to country music. Like that's boring and not realistic, I feel like there's a lot of people that pretend like they were raised in the mountains with a little tiny, one little radio. Now it's like we all did grow up in the early 2000s, and there's you had an ICP phase, you had to figure it out, man. Like you haven't been wearing a cowboy hat your whole life. It's just funny, man.
Yeah, and I think technology is such an interesting part of this too, because one of the things that I would imagine, and I think this is the way that things will, the way that I see this kind of progressing and where we're at currently, it's amazing that we have essentially all of the music you could ever imagine in your pocket. Just at any time, you can find anything. And what I see is kind of happening is you have the, what we'll call pop music, right? Whatever's out there for the masses. That used to be more eclectic, and as time has gone on, what's actually happened is that has become more and more and more similar, right? Because the target that those people are shooting for,
it's concentrating.
It has to pull back and has to be so much bigger. But then, and so people see that and they bitch about that and they say, look at this, all music sounds the same. It's like, no, you're missing the actual cool thing that's happening, which is everything else around that. All of the music that everyone else is making is becoming more and more and more varied. Because
I think the complaint about that, though, is more that probably comes from the fact, like, the underappreciation for the more varied stuff. Like the masses are more inclined to just
the
go
masses,
with all these things that sound.
The masses like all kinds of shit, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
I agree, but I could see why musicians would be salty about it, trying to make a living. Where
I look at it from a historical perspective, which I mean, so my background is in American roots music, hence Roosic. And what's fascinating about looking at the trajectory of different American styles of music is how technology, part of it, how technology interplays with that. So things like, how does rock and roll come around in the time that it does? Well, it's because everyone is listening to the same music culturally, right? Now, there's slight variation depending on where you're living, and there's going to be different influences, but whether or not, you're living in this part of the country, that part of the country, you're listening to the same 2 radio stations, 3 radio stations. And so all of these things are more, there's a sort of a collective, it works on a much more collective scale. And so you can kind of see how these large swaths of music come together and become something new, and then you can track it much more naturally. Whereas now, what I think is so beautiful is everyone is doing that on an individual level. Now your music can be the culmination of all the different stuff that you love, and your music can be a combination of and they're going to be separate. They're going to be different. And I think that that's what the sort of the pop reaction is where the creative people outside of that are functioning on that level where everyone, whatever you're into, you can just make your stuff an amalgamation of all of those things, and it can be distinct, and it can be different, it can be weird, and it can not necessarily fit into a clearly defined role. But because all that's happening on the sort of on the outside of that, the target for pop music has to be so much bigger because they just need to cast the widest net they can. And that's not to say even, I'm sure there's probably some cool stuff in there too, but I would much rather live in that world than live in, 1959 where,
sure.
Yeah, to me, it's night and day. As
that relates to, traditional American music, or traditional songs that are interpreted over and over and over again. You think about Wabash Cannonball. The reason why you like this version is because that's that person's version.
Yeah.
Well, now we have the ability to interpret it, with all of these modern influences. And I think that they should be changed.
Yeah.
You should be doing your version of that. You should be bringing the thing in that made you feel something from over here, and then mixing it with this thing. Why not? It's across the board, that's the way that I feel now. Doesn't mean
totally. Yeah, that's what keeps it interesting. I think it's super important to, even if your one thing is country music or rock music or whatever you do, I think it's super important to get into other stuff just to be able to take what you like out of that and bring it over here. And
sure.
Mm-hmm. It makes it it makes it that's what you are. You're the lump sum total of all of the stuff you like. Mm-hmm. And to me, God knows if anyone looks at my Spotify, it looks like an insane person, but everyone else's does too. It's just a different collection of insane person stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but again, I just think that's really, I think it's really cool. I think it's going to lead to even more cool music out there. It's just, there's growing pains like anything, and they're going to keep going. But
absolutely,
I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first song you wrote? Back in the punk days?
First song I wrote? Nah. I remember the first 10, they all blend together.
Yeah,
but no, yeah. I wrote songs for, I was 14 years old writing songs for an angry punk band, a 4-piece. And when I say writing songs, I mean putting insert generic 14-year-old punk rock lyric here on. I was writing guitar parts that I thought were pretty badass.
Yeah, but that's how you figure it out. That's how you figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I think how everyone starts.
Oh, dude, I don't remember the first song I wrote, but you sharpen your knife forever.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, Brian and I were.
Clean the tubes.
Whatever.
Clean the pipes.
Brian and I were talking about this, because we were talking about this in the context of lessons, of giving guitar lessons, because it's something that both of us have done a lot of. And
I need one.
We were saying how one of the things that's we would rather if you're starting out as a guitar player, it's almost better to just fuck around with it. It's like taking a car engine apart. Yeah. Just take it apart and try and put it back together.
Totally.
And you're going to screw up. You're going to have no idea what you're doing at first.
Be down to screw up.
Exactly, exactly. But go through that process of just trying to figure it out, and then coming back to, okay, what's not working here? Why is this not working here? And once you have that sort of self-awareness of what's going on, then to step into a lesson or whatever.
Lights the critical thinking match.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, I think with like anything, learning to figure it out yourself is almost always better. It may take longer, but it's almost always a better result than somebody teaching it to you, because you learn how to you gain the skill of being able to figure it out, and that just, adds up into being able to figure everything out in the future. Or, whereas like people who are kind of taught everything, I feel like they don't have as much of that skill to where they can't do it themselves.
And it's like anything else. Like you as a teacher can build the skill set of teaching someone from the ground up. Like, so now when I teach people, there's something I enjoy about starting with someone who knows nothing and working from the ground floor up, because that's a skill set that I've learned to figure out how to do that. But it's also it's very individualized to who that particular person is and how you learn, because everyone goes about that differently. But yeah, it's a tricky thing. I mean, you realize that it's all skill sets all the way down, whether it's how you actually learn or how someone can teach you to learn or whatever. It's like, I think as a teacher, your job is to actually show people how to learn, not necessarily how
to teach themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Like, to me, all the people who have taught me the most in life haven't shown me, like, when I think of all of the people in my life that I really admire, who have made me think the way that I think as a person, I don't agree with them on all these different things, but they showed me how to think. The process of thinking is more important than what you're thinking. I mean,
I've done a lot of different trades in my life, and I've been worked a lot of different kind of jobs. Anytime you train somebody to do something, I never considered myself a teacher, but I've been tasked with training lots of people to do different things, and I'm always like, all right, don't touch anything. Watch me do it one time, and then I'm gonna leave.
There you go. Yeah, that's probably a really, really smart way to go about doing it. Yeah, it's. I think, to me, learning is fun. Whatever it is. I mean, there's some stuff. Yeah, exactly. There's some stuff that's not fun to learn, but like for me, that's the fun part of life. Is that's why for songs, I love taking them apart and putting them back together. Whether it's a song of mine, or whether it's a song of friends, or whether it's just a song I hear on the radio. Just, okay, what's going on? Like, why is that working?
Well, then that was later for me. I mean, it was pretty recently that I started kind of wanting to analyze stuff like that. I mean, I guess I'm writing songs for a long time. Really? I mean, I don't know. Yes, creating songs, sure. Caring why or how they worked, not necessarily, just doing it. But it's only been recently that I found myself wishing I had more technical skill with like an instrument, because so I could do something I hear now, or like hear a song that maybe I've heard for years and years, and think, why is that sounding the way that it is?
That's such a better position to be in than the inverse position. Like to have that musical mind and think, okay, I need to get my skills to a point where I can translate that to an instrument, is in my mind, such a better position to be in than to have all the technical skill in the world, but not know where to point that.
Right.
Like to me, I think
anybody can learn the technical, but like that kind of more creative aspect of it, that's much harder to learn or be taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I guess that's a good way to put that. Yeah.
Can you grab him another one of these? And I think.
Oh, you know what? I want one of those.
Oh, okay. There you go. I think there's a couple in the fridge, actually. I think
nice.
That's. I always think that's. There's nothing worse than listening to a musician who is a great technical musician, but doesn't have anything interesting to say.
I mean,
That's yeah.
can't make a record if you ain't got nothing to say.
They got
Yeah.
these plastic bottles.
Oh yeah, we're out of the. I'm sorry, we're out of the metal ones. Damn. You're like,
Oh,
I'm
thank
leaving.
you.
This is just horrible service. Yeah, I would much rather listen to someone who has interesting musical things to say,
Well,
but may not have the most technical abilities on their instrument.
oh, I mean, aside from that, I would rather live a life as a person that knows that I have so much more, tangible stuff to learn.
Yeah.
In order to express myself, than to have a bunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I feel like
Yeah,
my
yeah.
time would be spent really, really sadly. That's just if I didn't have these big ideas to think about and like no way to communicate
Yeah.
them yet,
Totally.
that's
a
an
good way to
easier
think
thing to
about it.
chip away
Yeah,
at
that's
than
a
it
very
is,
good way of putting it.
than to try to find like light in a completely dark, but like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus-
Who are people right now that you think of as the songwriters that you're in awe of at this point in your life?
Matthew Weldy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, I just produced his record. He's got a 13-song record coming out that he allowed me to produce, and that was a great experience. But I think that he's one of the most prolific songwriters. I mean, I'm a best and prolific songwriters. He just shits them right out.
Yeah,
Joe Wonderly
he's
also.
For everyone listening, Matthew is a songwriter around town who also a great guitar player. Really, like, how long has he been here for? I'm trying to. Not that
4
long,
years,
right? Yeah,
4 years,
yeah,
3, 4
something like
years.
that. 3-4
Something
years.
like that.
Really, really
Maybe
cool
5.
guy.
I don't know.
I don't
mean,
know
this
who
guy-
that is. I need to look him up because Chris mentioned him last night too, right?
Yeah, we were talking about him a little bit
I'm
last.
gonna have to do some research.
Good. Everyone
Yeah.
talk about him.
Really cool guy too. Super nice guy. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, if we're talking about contemporaries, people that are like just my homies that write good ass songs all the time. That'd be, yeah.
That's the way to be. I mean,
That's my pull. for that.
I love the fact that there are so many of my friends around that I'll hear them play and I think, God, they're good.
Dylan
Like,
Warnick also.
Dylan Warnick. Okay. I don't think I know Dylan.
Oh,
I don't
you
think
will.
so. Okay.
I mean, like he's great.
Okay. Nice.
Just
Yeah. There's just something awesome about going to see a buddy play and thinking, man, I want to be better.
well, that's the thing about being here is that like is there a point at which like you've learned enough and you can take it somewhere else? There is nowhere else that challenges you in such a welcoming way as Nashville. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
That's one of the things that we started this talking about growth and the pros and cons of that for people like us. And I mean, even still, it's like we all love hanging out with each other in the context of doing music related things, but there's also this other way to look at that, which is there are people doing things that you want to know how to do. There are people doing things that you look up to and respect, and those people are your friends, and those people are inclusive, and they want you to learn. Like it's just very friendly.
Yeah.
There's no other music scene where people are playing is at such a high level, and the grasp is such a high level, and it's also everyone can hang.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really. I mean, genuinely, everyone out here can hang. That's just a lot of really good. Do you find that? I find for myself, I need other things in life besides music, or I don't have anything interesting to say. And,
oh man, of course.
Yeah, and like to me, it's like there are some people out there who I think can be wholly obsessed with music and not do anything else, or next to nothing else, and have interesting things to say.
If you put the right thing in front of me, I'll never do music again.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's my feeling.
I'm like
too.
looking for the thing,
Yeah.
Like I think this might be it, but like,
but that I think to me, it's something that's something I've had to learn in life, because that didn't come easy to me. For me, because I was so obsessed with music, there was this feeling in my life of, no, you have to be all in on this thing, and everything else is going to be secondary to that. And for me, I found in my life that no, when I am the best songwriter and musician when I have other things in my life that I'm obsessing over as well.
Totally. I have found that a lot of the other, like as far as like getting better and progressing, I have found the other things I do will really influence like how I progress as a musician.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Yeah, like I skateboard a lot. That's the other thing I do a lot. And all like there's been so many times in my life I will have like some kind of like aha moment that kind of takes me to the next level of that thing, and then I kind of like think about how that worked, and I'm able to like apply it to what I'm doing with music, and it kind of works in the same way. I think whatever you're trying to get better at, often it translates to other things.
Yeah, because it's the actual skill of learning.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
a skill, and when you can see that applied in other things, it makes applying that to music easier. Whereas I feel
Totally.
like the trap I was falling into is I was so I was so singularly focused on music that it's like I wasn't learning the skill of how to learn.
Right.
You know, and then you get better at that, and you think, oh no, okay, I can if I can do that for this, I can do it for music.
I'm
just
seeing
kinda-
a through line in this conversation now too, which
That
is
I'm an
like,
idiot.
make your bed. Yeah, idiot, make your bed. You know, you
Casey's an
I
idiot
still
and make
haven't
your bed.
gotten around to making my bed every morning.
I don't do it either, to be honest.
But it's the idea of it's nice though. You know?
You know,
It's,
Yeah, just get your shit
I
together.
don't practice either.
Yeah,
you get it?
Just get your shit together, and you'll be okay.
No,
you
but
know?
the action of learning is fun. Like it's
Yeah.
and that's and anything that inspires critical thinking. So
For sure.
So yeah, we talked about what's your daily practice, and is it like do you put time aside? No, it's things are on the back burner, and especially as a songwriter, Casey, it's like you have to go different places. You have to see
Yeah,
different things. You have to
absolutely.
be experiencing different things. You need to open up your fucking head. You know?
No, absolutely.
And
You need
not
to
by
read, you need
reading,
to-
not by reading a ton of books, by reading like half the books that you would read, and then like just leave the house
Yeah.
without your
Get
wallet
out.
for
Yeah.
a day or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, lose your shit. Like
Yes.
roll down a hill. You got to do stuff.
There you go. Yeah. It's
Eat
it's
a bunch of
there's
weird food.
worse things to do in life than figuring out how to put songs together. So I just always feel very lucky that I have other things in life that I love too, but I love music so much, and I love figuring out how to put songs together.
I love that I am now currently hyper fixated on like learning music.
Yes.
And I love that I didn't worry about it too much for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's become a reason to learn music.
It's a good way. It's a good outlook to have.
totally.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of good ones, but that's one good one.
I don't know, man. We've known each other a long time. I've heard a lot of wise words from you, but yeah, it's a fun thing to do.
If you throw enough shit at the wall.
Something will stick eventually.
That's what I'm banking on right there. Yeah. Just gonna keep fucking saying shit and see
Yep,
what
just
see what works,
keep
but-
talking as long as possible.
Yeah. Oh God. But how are we doing back there, Alexa? Yeah.
Art is going well.
It's like, what's happening over there? You can always never tell. It's so funny too, because it's like there's like a level of formality to this that I don't like. You
Is
know
it,
what I mean?
is it the headphones or the microphone?
No, it's just exactly. But it's this funny thing where it's like, Brian and I and Alexa and I have all talked about this so much. It's like, okay, the intent with this is just to sit down and like hang with people, and it's so hard because it's interesting that when you put lights on people and put a microphone on them and put headphones on, right, it can feel performative, right? It can feel like it can feel like you're getting on stage, and it's interesting to see people. It's interesting to see people deal with that, because to me it's like I want to make the situation as not that as possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? To just sit and hang and talk. But it's funny how that can creep into your head, like, oh, we're recording now. It's the same thing like when you go to sit down to record a piece of music and the red light's on and you're like, fuck, I just
totally.
played this 50 times in a row perfectly and now I can't fucking, you know, like I do that all the time.
I know all about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Every
And-
video I do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Brian's got Brian has worse than maybe anyone ever.
I'm good at getting in my own head.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. The lights and the camera and the action they definitely make it different. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Till the lights on and till it's in a microphone. It's hard. That's a whole other skill to learn, is to stand on stage and
It's
talk
hard, yeah.
to people. I don't know.
Yeah. Brian's really good at that. He's fantastic. No.
Sometimes it can be.
Brian's a good so Brian has played, I think, every gig I have played in the last like 10 years. He's played on with me. I think every one of them. And
Most of them.
I can probably count on one hand how many words he said to an audience on stage.
As a new performer, it just makes it's a different
Not
level
my
of
job.
discomfort.
I show up and I play guitar.
Exactly. And you do it
that's
damn
all I
well. So
wanna do.
there you go.
And you don't have to. You know, I
intend
don't know.
to keep it that way.
Yeah. You're lucky I'm speaking to a microphone right now.
Yeah, they had to bully me into
We did.
doing this.
We really did. Well, so because we were doing this with another friend initially, and Brian was just gonna do kind of like the back end stuff with Alexa, and then the other guy that I was gonna do this with didn't end up doing it, and Alexa and I were like, Brian, you just do it. Just fucking do it, right? Because I talk enough. We don't need a second me up here yapping. You know what I mean? Like that's
somebody to break it up.
Yeah, exactly. So we did it, and it was funny. We because when we were setting up for all this, we've got to do like essentially a fake like test show to like go through the blocking and like just make sure the shots where we want and the lighting and all that crap. So we just sit down and start talking, and we talked for probably an hour or whatever, and Brian and I were like, oh, this is we could do this because this is what Brian and I will do on a Sunday if there aren't cameras around. It's like we'll just hang out and talk.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my god, like that was an hour. Like we just So it actually works out really nicely, I think, Ryan. We may not fire you. We may keep you in.
That's good.
The time does still fly just talking to you guys. I mean,
it does.
It really does.
If that was an hour with you guys, I mean, I'm sure this has been 45 minutes.
How long have we gone?
To be honest, it's 1 hour and 7 minutes.
Oh wow!
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, last night we sat down with Chris, and it felt like a blink of an eye, and
Yeah.
an hour and 40 minutes. We were like, whoa.
Oh, I mean, talking to Chris will do that to you anytime.
Yes, exactly.
He's a
He's a talker.
As well. Like he's the best for
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, it was funny. So we did ours with him yesterday, and then we had to stay. He had a gig to go get to. We were going to go over there, and then we had to go get something to eat. Well, we had to finish up a few things here for the pod, and then Brian and I were going to go get something to eat. And it was like 11:30 on a Saturday night, and everything's closed in East Nashville. We went to Lindo's to get some Mexican, and they were packed. So we said, you know what? We're going to go to Wingstop. So we drove over to Wingstop at like 11:30 at night. It's like a fast food wing place. Horrible decision.
I look at it all the time.
tasted good going down.
No, it was fantastic going down, and then
Didn't feel great after.
yeah, we caught the last two songs of the set over at D's, and then we called it a night. And driving home, we were both thinking that was a mistake.
I was also trying to make it at D's last night and didn't make it at all. And
We only beat you by 2 songs, so we caught the last 2. Yeah.
ordered Whataburger to the house, and they were it took like 2 extra hours. I ate that burger at like 4 in the morning, and then passed out. That's how my night. I didn't make it to D's.
It happens. There's only there's a lot of shows to catch when you're in Nashville.
Well, you have to decide what you don't do. That's
Exactly.
the best part.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
can be a lot. Oh God.
Good having more than one option.
That's true.
That's right. Like it's funny because here you have like food and everything like close 12 and just a few bars that you can just have some good food like.
It is super strange that that this city is encouraging more and more nightlife and tourism, and there's no late night food keeping up with that.
Yeah, it's really it is very
it's like
odd.
everybody's in line for the same cheeseburger that's you can
look
get
at
at
the places
one.
we went last night, right? Lindo, Mexico. That Mexican food that's like right down the street from D's.
Bomb Mexican, fire
Love
Mexican.
that place. We go there all the fucking time.
Let's go after this.
But they are one of the only places that are. That's actually how I found it, because I used to live right over there, and I was hungry at 1 a.m. and it was the only place open. So I'm like, okay, I'll go here, and it's super good. But like, if you go there at like 1 a.m., it's fucking packed. Like last night, we couldn't even get in.
Yeah.
We walked in the door, and the
guy was so flustered.
The guy
He was like,
looked so disappointed that another customer was walking in the door that we were just like, okay, all right, we'll go.
yeah, it is kind of odd though, because someone could be making some real money if they had some good late night food spots
I'm sure
open.
it'll start popping up.
Like, I'm from Ecuador, and we used to have like nights, like 4 in the morning. Everyone's hanging out till 4 in the morning, go to eat, and continue for the party.
Mm-hmm.
And we have so many places like ceviche, McDonald's is always 24 hours open.
Yeah.
I guess McDonald's is still 24 hours here, isn't it?
Yeah, there's still
like drive-through.
I don't
on
know.
the east
I
side.
don't think so. Yeah, I
Really?
don't think so.
You got cookout till 4. That's
Yeah.
what you got.
Cookout, yeah.
Cook-
Hey, I
Cookout till
will
4.
mess up some
hey,
if you
cookout.
drive by,
What's your go-to cookout order?
Oh, I got a tray. I'll just throw everything on that burger.
I'll do the
I go with
cheddar style.
Cheddar
and then
style, that's you and I right here. Yeah.
I get the Cajun fries and then onion rings.
I double down on nugs like a 5-year-old.
Double down on nugs.
Down on nugs like a 5-year-old.
Damn. Okay. Yeah.
That's
Big
a very
double.
5-year-old thing to do.
Big double cheddar style, chili cheese fries, Cajun chicken wrap.
I go with a quesadilla on the side though. I'll
Oh,
throw a
nice,
quesadilla on the
nice.
side. Just drown everything in buffalo sauce. That's what I do.
Nice.
Yeah, that's the move. Wow, that was very enlightening, guys.
Yeah, that's good. I mean,
Like,
it's what you stay for.
Yeah,
Alexa's talking on the podcast now. We got to get her a mic.
We got to get her a mic. We need to get you like a lapel mic or something. Yeah, or something you can turn on and
Yeah.
off. You know.
Oh, we
Just
should.
chime in and
Yeah, there you go.
decide. That's good.
Yeah.
Just because
there
no
you
one's
go.
going to be able to hear you on the audio.
Well, you know what? It's all good.
One day.
Next time,
I've
just
gotta-
scream.
Guys,
Next time, just
I
scream.
gotta pee. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Come on, hop in here.
Can I do that? I'm just gonna
Go for it. Go
it's
for
a
it. Yeah.
whole different deal.
You don't want to come. You don't want to come take your first in front of the camera. No.
You want to
Okay.
make an appearance?
No. Okay. Well, then Brian and I will just. Brian and I will talk about. Yeah. I got home last night. This is gonna sound very strange. I got home last night after Wingstop, and I remembered that I had a carton of Ben and Jerry's ice cream in the freezer, and for whatever reason, my mind went to, okay, if you eat this, the pain. If you put something else in your stomach, the pain will subside. And you know what? Actually, kind of works.
Really? See, I would think that would have just made you feel worse.
No, it actually helped out. It helped out. I ate like half of it, and then I remembered self-control exists, and I said, okay, you're gonna stop now, and it did. It helped actually. It did.
You know something? I was thinking like some podcasts they have people who talk, but they talk like super like
Yeah.
They use the mics for
Oh, there you go.
for Borero.
We'll figure
should
it
just
out
get-
for you. Yeah, we'll
should
get
just
you.
We'll
one.
get you a little clip-on.
And you can
shirt
have a little
mic.
button that's like when you want to talk, it's like a walkie-talkie, like hello. Yeah, that'll be perfect. That'll be perfect.
Hello?
Because if you are gonna talk, we might as well get
Yeah.
you something.
This has
So the
gotta be-
audio's better.
A high quality show here. You know.
Yeah, we
High
gotta.
quality show.
Yeah, that's because sometimes they're like, oh my god,
Mhm.
I want to say something sometimes,
Oh.
but I don't want to show.
You know, yeah, we need some late night. We need some late night pizza is what we need in Nashville.
No, we can do
Domino's delivers pretty late.
I'm not talking about Domino's.
Dude,
No,
Domino's
don't get
is
wrong.
kind of fire.
Domino's is fire. I was actually I had this conversation earlier today. I'm not even kidding. Domino's is fire. But I'm talking like
artisan
I'm talking some good
pizza.
stuff. I'm talking some like New York style fucking.
Well, to
Yeah.
be honest, I have not been blown away by any pizza.
Yeah, you
No.
bring me one.
I agree.
Remember
I agree.
when we was having-
Oh, the Desano's place in Midtown. That place is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's more of like Italian style, but it's good. Have you been there?
No, I have not.
Pizza, 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 pizza.
There we go.
But we've gone to some other places. Like I, looked up, tried to go on like Reddit threads and stuff to find what everyone says is the best pizza in Nashville. Went to a few of those places. Didn't blow me away.
Yeah, it's funny. All the pizza I've ever had, I've always been disappointed here. But then there's other people who will say, "Oh my God, but have you tried this place?" And I'll say,
mid.
No, but I'll just say, "No, I haven't." And it's like I've given up, is what it is. It's like and I'm sure if I wasn't so cynical, I guess, then maybe I would find some. But
do you have any good pizza spot recommendations?
Pizza spot
besides Domino's, we've already
we were saying I haven't had any pizza in Nashville that has like blown me away.
No, I mean not really, but I'm also not. I don't find myself craving pizza very often. When I do, almost any pizza will do. It's about once a month. I mean, what kind of food fuels your songwriting the most?
Oh God, that's a very good question. Good Lord. Fuels my songwriting. There is nothing like, I'm not a sweets guy.
Me neither.
But every once in a while you just sit down with like a tub of ice cream and go to town occasionally. That can help. I'm a sucker for breakfast food. So I think sitting down with some breakfast food and a piece of paper, I
feel like there's not enough variation in breakfast food.
I don't care. I want eggs, I want bacon, I want toast.
Okay.
Oh, you know what I can get down with though? Is a chicken fried steak. Oh Lord,
steak.
I could get down with it, but like the crappier the better. You know what I mean?
Some foods are like that, like the lower quality is.
Yeah,
almost.
exactly. Like there's a Nashville Biscuit House.
Pizza is one of those things. Like you ever go to like some fancy pizza restaurant? It's like I
bullshit.
want the
All
bullshit.
I feel like Mexican food's the same way. Like I don't want to go to some like fancy high class Mexican food. Like give me the little hole in the wall where nobody there speaks English. Exactly. Those are always the best ones.
I want the big burrito, cash only at the truck. Let's go.
If I can give you a credit card or a debit card and you will accept that, I don't want to eat here.
Pastor burrito, let's go. That's it.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that's the thing I miss most about California. That includes my family. The Mexican
so many
food.
24-hour Mexican
There's
food
neck
places.
and neck family and Mexican food.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like one of the best things we got going for us here, food wise, in Nashville.
Well, yeah, there is some damn good food in Nashville. There really is.
It's hidden. It's in pockets.
Yeah, you gotta kind of. It's like anything worth finding. You gotta kind of search for it a little bit. But God, well, I gotta say that I'm really, really, really fucking glad you did this, man. Like this was
Thanks for having me.
Way to end on a
Just on a real
important note.
solid dismount from this whole conversation.
Stuck the landing, guys.
Well,
Stuck
I mean, what was the last
landing.
thing we actually talked about music-wise? Was like thinking about other shit and doing other shit.
Well, there you go then. See, it all works out.
It all worked
no,
out.
but really, I'm really, really glad you did this, man. And I really dig the first record. I'm excited to hear what the next one's going to be whenever it comes around.
What is next for you? You got any goals or plans for the future?
None whatsoever.
Good. Keep it that way.
Yeah.
That's good.
No. I mean, I don't know. I'm excited to see what that is too.
Yeah.
I'm working on stuff in the back of my head. I've been helping some other people do some stuff, and I've been also adjusting to some life changes and whatnot.
Yeah.
New household situation. I need to get myself a car. I need to be able. I gotta get the basic stuff done. And no, my goal is another record by middle of next year.
Nice.
I'm working on it.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm glad
That Quit Making Whiskey song will be on it.
Good.
I know that. That's all I know.
Good.
For now.
Hell yeah. Well,
cool.
Thank you for doing this, man. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Anytime, dude. Anytime.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
You have to come back and do it again.
Yeah.
after
Dude, that was
your
fucking
next album comes
awesome,
out.
man.
No, and
That was a lot of fun.
If you want to do like more videos for your songs and everything, we should love to do it.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
man.
let us know, man.
That was fun.
Fuck yeah, dude.
First podcast. It is a weird thing.
No, you know what I mean? It is weird because it's
Let's
like...
go. Let's go have a
Yeah,
smoke.
fuck yeah. It's weird 'cause it's like all we're literally doing is just fucking doing
Sitting
the
here
exact
talking.
same thing we're gonna do
We
when
were
we go
doing,
out smoking
and
cigarettes.
what we were already doing, but I can't wait to do that again.